Hi, welcome back to Hunto's Garage, part 2 of the diecast tribute to the 8 ball. To get you up to date, we tried several different ways to get the paint off the car. Here we are ready for primer. Of course, I'm using Tamiya's Fine Surface Primer. Here we go. Okay, we'll let that sit for a little bit and then put another coat or two on it. So here's the base. I'm going to go ahead and take these wheels off, and I'll go ahead and hit this with some Tamiya surface primer. Before I do that, my car did not have this chrome bumper. This chrome bumper has to go, but it did have the Shelby front bumper, so I'm going to have to cut this bumper back a little bit and then open up this mouth. Maybe I'll just paint the front black here in the bottom to make it look like the Shelby front fiberglass piece. So to do that, I'm going to use my dog nail clipping Dremel on low speed. See if I can't sneak up on this a little bit. Okay, so I've got the basic shape. The rest of it is going to be a little bit of filing. Okay, this looks pretty good. I have to get rid of this section in the center. I'll use a sharper round file for that. A little bit of sanding. As suspected, we need just a little bit more work here to blend this, and here to define this, and then kind of smooth this out a little bit. But right now I've got to take off these little corners. Got to take the corners down a little bit. This looks a little better. Okay, it looks pretty good. Let's hit it with some primer. Just a little bit more on both sides. Got to come off. And I probably need to put some putty here in the bottom and build that up just a little bit. So I'm using Milliput 2-part epoxy putty. Did most of the work on this valance piece on the front off camera. It took way longer than I anticipated. With this and the fender flares, it turned out to be the most time consuming. Okay, most of that's going to come off. There'll just be a little lip left at the bottom of that opening. Okay, I'm going to tape off the dash, spray everything else gray. Okay, that's what she looks like primed. The dash on a 65 Mustang has a glove box door on one side that's black. Just gonna try and represent that a little bit. And the instrument cluster is over here. Of course, the steering wheel is black. Okay, looks just cheesy enough. Okay, good enough. Don't get too close. Now, the seats were blue on my car, and of course the roll bar is going to be black. Not that you'll be able to see this inside the car, but it's fun to do it. Okay, there's our roll bar representation. Okay, it's time for the blue seats now. There's one that'll work. If I can keep my fingers out of the wet black paint, I'll be in good shape. The blue's done. I'm gonna let that dry. My glove box door representation got messed up. Okay, good enough. Let's see if I can find a stick shift for this thing. Boy, that's gonna be tiny. So we'll let that one sit for a while, and then I'll go ahead and work on the front of this thing some more. Which I think I'm gonna go ahead and take this grill off, because my car had a grill but it was recessed. This one's way out there, more like 66, although the hatch pattern is correct for a 65. I'm going to go ahead and remove it just so you can see a hole back there. I'll grind it back, paint it black, so you can't actually see into the model. There we go, done. So let's see how that car should be dry enough now, how that fits. Actually, that holds the car together in the front, but I like it being recessed like that, so I'll just have to glue it up here in the front, no big deal. And oh, they got the rocker panels on here. These gotta go. These always come off, honestly, on any race car situation, and actually it looks like it's too low. Be a good place for some side pipes if those were a thing with these cars, but I'm gonna go ahead and paint this the same color as the car. Not that it was actually there. Got to take this back just a little bit to follow that line, the wheel well line on both of them. Should be able to do that quite easily. There we go. Just take the angle off. That looks like it's pretty good. I can see I need to take a little bit off up here to get this to set right. I've got most of the interior painted at this point. Here I'm adding a little bit of silver to the safety harnesses just to represent the buckles on each safety harness. So the thing that's taken me the absolute longest on this car is this front and the real world fiberglass piece fascia that I had to shape, because this is what the Shelby's got, and there is no bumper, and that is what was on the car when I sold it, as well as a Dr. Gas exhaust system, X-pipe. So the base, I'm just going to paint a flat black. See how that goes. And that's our flat black. It's still wet, so it's got to dry. That'll be a nice flat black, and then I'll go ahead and do a little bit of detail on the bottom. I went ahead and detailed the bottom a little bit. Got the exhaust system, control arms, which these control arms are not like that on a Mustang. But not everyone would know that. And I also put in a shifter, because what's a sports car without a shifter? So that baby's good to go. So this is what she ends up looking like after the paint. It's okay. It's probably about as good as the paint job was on 8-Ball, being a race car. But after this drives for probably a couple days, give it a good polish, little sand and polish, see if we can get that a little smoother. Otherwise it looks pretty good just the way it is. Alright, so the decision has been made between the torque thrust wheels, which look pretty damn good on there. between those and the aluminum slots for this 8-ball, I'm going to go ahead and use the aluminum slots, which are a little bit bigger. They'll look nice and meaty underneath there in the wheel wells, but I may have to make the wheel wells a little bit bigger to get them to fit. So that I'm going to do so they're more of a true representation of the 8-ball. Paint on this came out pretty good. I may still go ahead and polish this just because it's not completely flat, but boy, for a rattle can that came out nice. Now what I am going to do, I'm going to have to do some work on this base. The wheels have to come in a little bit, so I've got to grind a little bit off on both sides, front and back. And I have another car which is going to get the torque thrust wheels, and maybe if I can find it, I've got so many cars right here on my bench. Here it is. This looks like a good candidate for another 8-ball tribute with the torque thrust wheels. Yeah, that's pretty much the same. Yeah, so I'll make this one an 8-ball as well and put the torque thrust wheels on this. Check out this paint. Looks like they were going for Spectra Flame, but that's not exactly Spectra Flame. Still looks pretty cool though. It's the same casting, as a matter of fact, as this one. The engine is exactly the same. There you go. So I still got to detail the engine on this one. Put a little bit of silver around here. I did the front fascia, the Shelby front fascia. I don't know if this camera is going to focus that good or not, but it came out pretty good. That's all putty, epoxy. Came out pretty good. I'd kind of like to get a model of this thing and 3D print it so that you could have this on any car, because I don't know if there's any Shelby Hot Wheels or Matchboxes, is there? So you got to make your own. Anyway, this is the factory version. You can see the difference between the two. There you go. No bumper on the Shelby, just fiberglass piece in the front. Saving that weight. Okay, since I'm going with these big meats here, they have some pretty thin axles. I'm going to go ahead and use some 40 thousandths aluminum rod to put those in. It just fits nice, and I'm going to go ahead and make a little mark to where I'm going to make a hole in it so I can fill that with super glue so that'll hold that in. And my total width is yet to be determined. It's not going to be very much. Say it's going to probably sit about there. So that is going to put this guy here, and I got to take a little bit of this off just so I can get the wheels. I got to tub the front and the back to get the wheels in there. Going to be pretty sweet. I like the bigger wheel look. Maybe I should put some Batmobile wheels on it. These are even, they're about the same size. They're a little bit bigger than those. That's another project. Ooh, 8-ball Batmobile? Nah. Alright, so we're going to get this guy in here, and the amount that it's sticking out past the side of that fascia is the distance it needs to come inward. So I need to clearance quite a bit of that, and then probably put the rod in, and then even reinforce that somehow, some epoxy or something, because I do want the thing to roll, and I don't want the wheels to be rubbing on the wheel wells in the fenders. So tucking procedure is about to begin. So the first thing I've decided to do is go ahead and clearance the base here for the rod so it can sit down in there just as far as possible without going through it. One of the rare occasions where it's good to have this extra meat down here front and back, because I will probably need all of it. Quit looking at me, you're making me nervous. Okay, that fits in there. Alright, now we got to narrow this. Either narrow this or put some wild fender flares on this thing. That the 8-ball fenders were flared, but nothing like this. I mean, this is probably in the real world a good foot, 12 inches or so. Pretty happy with this Rust-Oleum paint, if I haven't said it 16 times before. Oh yeah, it turns too. Now it's rubbing up against the chassis a little bit, and it looks like it's back a little bit, so I need to clearance the back some. That should do it. And then bring it in, straight in. Looks like I could go forward some too, actually. Yeah, I think that'll be okay. At least Dr. Gas is still hanging in there. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and put a little hole in here so that I can get to the axle. Alright, so what I'll do is just put some super glue on the ends and stick them in there. Well, this one does have the hole, so we'll be good on this one. See that right there? See the axle? That'll be perfect. So off camera, I went ahead and stripped the car down again. I just wasn't happy with the paint. And here I'm going to go ahead and measure for fender flares, because this is not going to look right with those wheels sticking out that far from the body. So this is how I did it. So I got all the tires off now, and I'm just going over these chrome, because there was no chrome on my car, chrome wheels with some silver. Anyway, looks like some aluminum color. Just making sure these aren't too shiny. Okay, I like the paint. Paint looks good, except I got a little something here going on. Looks like dust, something there, something there. Maybe I can get that to polish out, but overall, I mean, it looks decent, and yeah, not bad. So I'll polish that a little bit. Probably more accurate to leave it in there if it's going to be just like the 8-ball, because that car was far from perfect, and not sure I want this to be nicer than the 8-ball was. So maybe I'll just let that dry, clean out my airbrush, and then go ahead and put the decals on it, or I'll give it a little polish before I do that, and then she'll be done. Then this can be the flagship for Hunto's Garage diecast playlist. Overall, looks good. I'll do a little bit of polishing on it, see what happens after it dries. Really good. And that's a wrap.